Hola, hola a todos. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Howdy streaming. First of all, happy Developers Day, everybody. This is a very special day. I hope you are having fun in our offices. I hope we are enjoying our day. All our Howdy folks out there. This is a very special date for us. And we know the exact day is tomorrow, September 13, because it's the day 256 of the year. But in Howdy, we celebrate this on a work day. That means we're having special lunches all over our offices across Latin America. We're having office decorations. We're having some very yummy and tasty cake. And of course, we're having some gifts and presents for our beloved Howdy developers. For our Howdy community tuning in, welcome. Hope you're enjoying your day. And for all our external folks from communities, external developers, and everybody that is not part of Howdy yet, just know this is how we roll. This is how we celebrate. This is how we plan these special dates. And if you want to know more about our community, please follow us on Instagram. Of course, I'm going to say that. It's an amazing community that we have out there. So welcome. This is how we do things at Howdy. We go big in celebrations and even more so for Developers Day. Before we start, I want to introduce myself. My name is Anto Caldano. I work here at Howdy, and I am now the host of this Tech Talk or streaming from the Buenos Aires studios. But I'm not alone. With me, I have two speakers, amazing speakers. We have Felipe Ortiz Huerta joining us all the way from Baja California, Mexico. Hi, Felipe. How are you?
How are things? Can you hear me correctly?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good,
Thank
good,
you.
good.
Thank you. And also, not so far away, but from across the Rio de la Plata is Darío from Montevideo, Uruguay. Hi, Darío.
Hi, how you doing?
Good.
Happy day, everyone.
Thank you. All right. Before we jump into the talk, I would like to share more information about our speakers so we all get to know them a little bit more. So I'm going to read this if you all excuse me because I want to say it correctly. Felipe Ortiz Huerta, he's our AI specialist at Howdy with a PhD in Quantum Photonics and over 7 years of academic research experience. Felipe has applied machine learning to quantum optics research and now brings his expertise to building practical AI solutions. Darío Macchi is a senior software engineer and developer advocate here at Howdy with more than 20 years of experience coding across different programming languages such as JavaScript, Ruby, .NET, and Java. Darío also teaches software engineering at the ORT University of Uruguay. He's a thesis tutor and a passionate about building high-performance architectures and mentoring new talent. So, welcome, guys. Welcome, everybody that's on the other side of the camera. I hope you really enjoy this tech talk. I'm very, very excited. I will be here today with you monitoring this and hosting this event. But now I want to pass the mic symbolically to Felipe so we can get this started.
Perfect. Cool. Well, I should start
Cool.
then. So this talk, well, you can see the title already. This talk is about the importance of prompt engineering on the short and long term. That's it. That's the main idea. So I'm going to talk about a few interesting topics. I believe they're interesting. So first, I want to give you a big overview of the talk. So the first talk, I will answer the question, why prompt engineering and why this is more relevant than ever. Very first part, no worries. The second part is going to be about prompt engineering fundamentals. I just want to take a very quick look at some frameworks and what I think is the most important prompting technique. Afterwards, part 3, I want to talk about vibe coding in production. Now, there is a difference between the typical vibe coding we all know and vibe coding in production. And I promise this part is very interesting because I think it applies directly to all developers. And of course, I want to end with the future of programming, which it is as it sounds, but I also want to talk about in this part about the problem with large language models. So let's get started. Let's start with the first part. To truly master prompt engineering, we need to understand that we are not just learning a new tool. We're participating in a fundamental shift in how software is created. So let's elaborate on this. First, we started with software 1.0, which is the computer code that programs the computer. This is the one we all know, the first one, the original one. Oh, sorry. Then we have software 2.0, which are the weights that program the neural network. The code is the weights of the neural network. This is the part that people most know it as machine learning. Then comes software 3.0, which are the prompts that program the large language model. In this case, English is the new programming language. This is why prompt engineering isn't just talking to AI, it's actually programming in the software 3.0 paradigm. So let's take a look at some interesting numbers. Well, I believe they're very interesting. We have approximately 28 million software developers in the world, but we have 5.5 billion people that can read and write. I think a graph will show this way better than any letter. This is why the software 3.0 paradigm represents the democratization of programming. Prompt engineering is a bridge that can turn those 5 billion people into potential programmers.
So, are you saying that we will have 5.5 billion of developers in the future?
Uh, in a way, yes, because just by using the basic the basic techniques to communicate with the NLMs, that counts as coding because you are using the software 3.0 paradigm.
Okay,
That,
okay,
that
okay, okay.
yeah.
So I'm not worried about the
So
competition.
yeah, exactly. You always need the three paradigm. They are everything is important in that sense. Okay, so let's continue with part two. So let's talk about the main frameworks. I just want to talk about two main frameworks very quick. So I think this is the most famous framework. It's called the prompting framework. It consists on certain elements. I'm going to talk about each element very quick. So first you have the persona. The persona, also known as role prompting, this tells the LLM to adopt a specific identity. That's easy. So every time you're communicating with an LLM, you add the persona, and then you add the task. We need to articulate the desired output. What do we want the LLM to do for us? That's easy as well. And of course, you need context. We need to provide the LLM with context. It's the same as talking to a human in that regard. And optionally, it's important as well, but it's optional. We can add references. This step involves providing examples or constraints to guide the LLM's output. And finally, the output format. We need to specify what kind of format we want as the output. These elements form the basic structure to how you communicate with any large language model. Uh, and the second and last one, the second framework, which I call the conversational agent framework. Now, I just want to make a small parenthesis here. If you are, I'm going to go back a little bit. If you are a software developer, you do not know this as the prompting framework. You know this as the user prompt. And now I'm going to talk about the conversational agent framework, which if you are a developer, you know this as the system prompt. That's all. It's just a change of name. I'm going to give now the elements for the system prompt or for the conversational agent prompt, because you're building an agent and you want to have a conversation with it, and you need to specify these elements. So the only difference with the past framework is that you focus a little bit more on context. That's all, context. So let's review each one of the elements. So we start with the persona. We already know the persona. It's exactly the same as the last framework. So this is where it gets more interesting now, because we are using a conversational agent framework. We need purpose. Basically, you need to tell your agent what's his purpose. Why is he trying to help you? It's like a general purpose, because you're gonna have a really long conversation with the agent. You need to specify the purpose. That's the main difference with just asking quick question using the prompting framework. Then it comes the type of interaction you want along the conversation, which makes sense because you're talking to someone, artificial nonetheless. And of course, you don't want your agent to go crazy. You need to specify rules. And those are the most important elements. I'm just want to add an extra element, completely optional, but I like it. It's called the closing phrase. Basically, you. I'm going to read this out loud. It says here, when I say that's all, provide a summary of the advice you have given me and stop. That's it. These are the main elements to build a conversational agent or the system prompt. Of course, you can expand on this on each element as much as you like, but this is the essence of it. So I just talk about the conversational agent framework and the basic prompting framework, which are very important. But now I want to talk about one prompting technique, which I believe is still the most important technique of all the techniques, the prompting techniques that we have. So it consists of the following. It's called lazy prompting. So basically, you write the task to the LLM with the minimum amount of context. Now, don't be mistaken, this is considered to be an advanced technique. Why? Because if you are using this technique, it means you already know all the prompting techniques and have enough context, but you are saving time and seeing with how much little context you can get away with and still get the right answer. That is why this is considered to be an advanced technique. So just remember that lazy prompting. Now, when to use lazy prompting? Well, when you can quickly assess the quality. That's easy. You ask the question and you already you have an idea of the answer. Okay, I can check the answer really quick. I don't want to use all my big context and all my prompting techniques because I want to get this answer really quick. Now, when not to use it? Of course, when you know the problem requires context that the model will barely guess. Those are the main important point for this. So just remember this: lazy prompting is an advanced technique, and yes, it is very important.
So basically, when you ask something to an LLM quickly, just you have a question and you go to ChatGPT and ask a question. Basically, you are using lazy prompting, and the other kind of prompting, the previous prompting, that the technique that you showed, is the one that maybe you can use when you configure the cloud MD or the agent MD file, and you add there all the whole context in order to later start using a short version of that in each question, right?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, using lazy prompting is if you have never used an LLM and you ask a simple question, technically that's not lazy prompting.
Okay.
Because lazy prompting means I already know in my hand all the frameworks, all the prompting frameworks. I already know in my head all the different prompting, advanced prompting techniques, but I decide not to use it because I'm trying to get
Okay.
the answer as fast as possible with the minimum amount of context, so I will save time. This is the essence of lazy prompting. So you must know beforehand. It's not like I have never used an LM and I just ask randomly. That's not lazy prompting. It looks like lazy prompting, but there's a huge difference.
Okay, great.
So just to wrap up the part of this talk, I see prompting frameworks as a bunch of Lego bricks. So we need to choose the proper Legos to make a good prompt, and that's it. This is just about building Lego bricks. Now, I want to emphasize something very important. There is approximately 50 prompting techniques, but they all have two things in common, which is task and context. I'm gonna get back to this after the third part of this talk, but I just want you guys to remember how important is task and context. Doesn't matter how many cool prompting techniques you have, which are very useful and important, but at the end of the day, it's about task and context. So I will get back to this after I finish this third part of this talk. So now let's go into it. So let's talk about vibe coding in production. So first, I need to define vibe coding, of course. So I'm going to use the official definition of vibe coding. We all know this definition. I'm going to read out loud the most important points. So this is one of the most important points. Forget that the code even exists. I want to be very clear about this. If you are a software developer and you're using assisting coding, you are checking the code, even if you are the editor of the code, and you're not building the code yourself, that's not vibe coding. Vibe coding is basically, even if you are the best programmer in the world, you close your eyes and you don't look at the code. That is the essence of vibe coding. And I want to talk about an important point that Andrea Carpati mentions on the official definition. Well, his official definition, he's the one who coined the term, so it's okay. His official definition. So it says, embrace exponentials. What does he mean by that? This graph that you're seeing right now represents the number of tasks a language model can accomplish, and it just keeps getting better at an exponential rate, not linear, exponential. We need to embrace vibe coding. It just keeps getting better at an exponential rate. So we need to accept that. It doesn't matter if we really like to code. Why I'm saying this? Because in the future, let's be honest, it's going to be impossible for humans to keep up by reviewing every line of code. Eventually, AI will generate a day's or even a week's worth of work. That is why we need to embrace vibe coding. But I can guess that right now you're wondering, or maybe trying to remember those famous horror stories about vibe coding that we all know. So how do we solve this problem of vibe coding if you are a developer and you want to do this responsibly? Well, the good news is right now Anthropic already has this really cool solution that I want to talk about it. And I really like this phrase from Anthropic that I'm going to read out loud that says, forget the code exists, but not that the product exists. There's a huge difference. So I want to elaborate on this a little bit more. This is not a new problem. This is what it means to be a manager. You don't have to know every single detail. You need to evaluate the output. That is important. Evaluate the output. For example, I'm just gonna give 3 examples. A CTO can write acceptance tests to confirm system functionality without knowing the intricate coding details that the expert is doing. It's okay. You need to do that. Another example, a product manager can use the product his team built to make sure it's working properly. So he doesn't have to check every line of code from his engineers. It's like, give me the product, I'm gonna click on it and see if it's working or not. That's being a manager. And a last example, a CEO can review crucial data points to gain assurance in the financials model's accuracy. So everyone has this manager mentality, but I want to be clear about something here. What do these 3 case scenarios have in common? They all have something called problem awareness, which is basically clearly understanding your goals and the nature of the work before involving AI. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if okay, I understand that you don't need to read all the lines of code. Sorry. It's about your own expertise. You still need task and context. Plus, of course, all these prompt engineering techniques. This combination is what makes you important. Again, I'm going to repeat this again. You need task and context. That only comes with your own expertise. So I
Felipe,
think with this,
I have
yeah,
one question that maybe I can do it right now.
sure.
They're asking, what about the importance of the process? Because it is justifiable to create code by focusing only on the result, while delegating test, documentation, and core processes in the name of faster delivery. What have you to say about that?
What is the important what, sorry?
Yeah, basically they're asking what is the importance of the process, because until now you are saying that basically we need to trust in the vibe coding process and trust in the output without or forgetting about the process. At least that is the question.
Oh, okay. So you never forget about the process. You can forget about the inner details, but this is why it's more important than ever to have acceptance tests. So you review only the output, and it's up to you to have uh, several acceptance tests so that nothing gets out of control. Also, another tip they gave is that right now you can work on problems that are not linked to bigger parts of the code that if you're trying to do something in production. So yeah, I don't know if that answers the question.
Okay. Yeah, I believe that answered the question. Yeah, yeah. Continue.
Yeah, okay, cool. So let's go to the last part of this talk, the future of programming. But as I promised, I'm gonna talk about the problem of large language models. I divided this last part into two, which is I'm gonna speak about the near-term future and the long-term future. Let's start with the near-term future. What could happen if we keep going like this? So let's make an analogy from the past first. As of today, every software engineer or computer scientist, I'm sure they have to learn the architecture of a computer. But a long time ago, it was believed that you want to be a good computer scientist, you need to have a deep understanding of semiconductors, microprocessor design, etc. To understand software. A little bit of physics. But if we fast forward to today, you do not need to be an electrical engineer or know any kind of physics to be a great software engineer. That is the reality right now. So the same thing, just to review this part, if you are a software engineer, yes, it's important to know the architecture. You do not need to know physics, even how a transistor works. It's cool to know about it. It's nice to know about it if you want, but that's why there is another career called electrical engineering. So this is the reality that we're living right now. The same thing is happening with large language model. Today, I agree that it's very important to know everything about the large language model from inside, outside, everything. But the way things are going is if you're a software engineer, eventually you will not need to know the architecture of the large language model. I mean, it's cool to know about the transformer architecture and very interesting, but we're getting up in the abstraction layer. So yeah, it will not be mandatory to do that. So this is again the abstractions layers that we are living right now. Yes, we can do software 1.0, but eventually you stay on software 3.0 and maybe on software 2.0. I want to stress something important here. That is true that we are going up on abstraction layers, but that doesn't mean the abstraction layers from the bottom are less important. We will always need people for that, but I'm trying to say the field is growing so much. So to sum up, yes, architecture is important. I totally agree with that, but not essential. And who knows? Maybe we end up with an entirely new operative system. Where, for example, we all have a Mac OS, a Windows PC like this, and we may end up with a local large language model operative system. And things are changing. You don't have to know the architecture inside the LLM, but to do amazing things, and maybe new careers start rising. Who knows? But this is where things are going thanks to abstraction layers. So that's all for the near-term future. Now I'm going to talk about the most speculative part of this talk, which is the long-term future. Let's go way ahead in the future. Why not? Since we're already here. So as promised, I want to talk about the problem with LLMs first. If I want to talk about the future of programming, what is the problem with LLMs? So let's talk about the big elephant in the room. Can we get to human level intelligence? LLMs have a big problem. Let me give you an idea of this big problem. So to train a large language model, you need approximately 10 trillion tokens. So this will take a human 170,000 years to read. This is amazing, but it's not enough. Let me give you an idea why this is not enough. Let's compare this with a 4-year-old kid. A 4-year-old kid has 100 times more sensory data. He has received in a 4-year span 100 times more sensory data than the LLM has seen in text. How do we know this? We can make a really good approximation. This 4-year-old kid has been awakened for 16,000 hours. He has an optic nerve that receives at I think 20 megabytes per second, and you can do the math, and you get that the kid receives 100 times more sensory data than any large language model out there. How do they manage to do that? Well, there is something called world model. We as humans, we have developed our own world model. What do I mean by world models? Let's talk a little bit about world models for humans. So this is how it works. If you see a basketball bouncing, you know where that basketball is going to go, because you have developed a physical intuition, and you don't need a PhD in physics to know where that basketball is going to. This is called physical intuition, and because you have your world model. This is for humans. But what about AI? We already know world models are very effective for us as humans, besides language, of course. So the only right now a big candidate for this is called JEPA, which is basically a world model where the AI learns by observing the world, just like this kit. This is the front runner of this is Meta's chief AI scientist, John LeCun. And who knows, maybe by following this path, we could get to AGI or even ASI. These are completely theoretical ideas, very interesting nonetheless. But who knows? I mean, maybe in our lifetime we could see this. I have no idea on this part. It's interesting nonetheless. And I think I spoke too much about the future, so I want to go back to the present again. So yeah, just to review all this. So we started with these basic programming paradigms. We saw very quickly two prompting frameworks, and the most important prompting techniques, which I think is lazy prompting, as I mentioned before. And we talk about vibe coding, but just to remember, we talk about vibe coding in production. This is important. And well, we just have a little bit of fun speaking about what the future could hold for us. So going back to the present, no more future. Right now, it's all about language. What do I mean by that? If we want to understand the universe or the natural laws of the universe, there's no other way around it but the language of mathematics. That's it. No other way around it. If we want to speak with humans, well, we need the spoken word to communicate, to be able to communicate. And right now, if we want to speak with the AI and understand it, we need prompt engineering. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Hey, great talk, Felipe. I have some questions that people wrote in the chat. Let me find out.
Dario, if you want, I can read Ronald's question out
Okay.
loud. That's the one I think
Sure.
we're missing, because the one from
Yeah, I
Alan you
have.
already. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have a couple more from the communities that I can read later.
Perfect. Let's go ahead with Ronald's question that says,
Yeah.
how can I write my prompt when I have a lot of rules? The LLM seems to ignore some of them when I have many rules for the LLMs to follow in my prompt. Sad face.
Yes, there is something called context rot. So if you keep increasing your prompt, eventually the quality of the response is gonna keep decreasing. You need to, well, the quickest fix right now without doing any kind of the quickest fix will be to do the following. The LLM tends to forget what you wrote in the middle. You need to remind it again at the end. This is called the forgotten value, the value of mel, because the LLM tends to forget this. So it has the technical term. It means it has a recency bias. So you need to remind it again. That is the easiest technique to trying to solve this problem of context rot. There are other more advanced technique like also using RAG helps to avoid this context rot problem. This is the official name, context rot. That's what I would recommend on the short term if you really want to fix that, because that's gonna keep happening. Doesn't matter if there is a new model that says, oh, we accept 100 million tokens on the input window, on the context window. Yeah, we still have context rot issue. So yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Felipe. I'm going to go ahead and keep reading the questions in the chat because there are a few coming up. So Alan says, if I design a really good prompt for a specific blog feature, how can we trust the results in terms of determinism? Since running the same prompt across different agents often produces different outputs, how do we ensure consistency?
The only way around it, in quote unquote, is LLM evaluation, and keep doing this prompt improving with prompt engineering techniques. But we have to accept, by definition, inherently, LLMs are not deterministic. Even if you put the temperature to zero and say, there, be completely deterministic, it just can't. The transformer architecture doesn't work like that. All you have to do is playing with probabilities and do some LLM evals. That's the only way around it. It's as cool as they are. Yeah, I understand that's a big issue because you want something, you want to control everything, and the only thing you can do is LLM evals and basically pray a little bit. That's maybe not the best way of saying it, but yeah, that's true. But yeah, you have to accept this is not deterministic unless they find a new kind of architecture. Yeah, maybe that would be interesting to see in my lifetime. But yeah, so we have to accept that. Yeah. So yeah.
Thank you, Felipe. Darío, anything you want to add before I move on?
No. Mostly taking into account that it's not deterministic. The whole thing that you wait the same result, asking several times to the LLM is not accurate. So you can't expect that from an LLM or from the AI. For that, we have the traditional way of programming if you want to receive deterministic results.
Yes, that's exactly. Yes, you can add some guardrails using classical programming by checking the JSON output from the LLM, and if it's not deterministic, you have your classical program that says, no, give me the answer. Until you give me the answer I want, I will let you through. That could be as a partial solution, no? But the ideal solution would be like any agent that you build is completely deterministic, which yeah, is still not going to happen. But yeah, you're absolutely right, Dario. Yeah, that's a good solution as well.
Thank you, Felipe. Thank you, Darío. We have another question from Elias that says, what about security issues? Bytecoding is great, but we still need to check the generated code to avoid vulnerabilities in the production code.
That's a very interesting question. And yes, it's called, some people call it vibe hacking. There's also, I think, a prompt hacking. And we have to take this into account. There is already very cool software that is trying to help us to avoid this prompt injection or prompt hacking. And we have to take this into account. It is extremely important. And yeah, if you have a web app or something that you develop, you need to have a red team to try to test these prompt hacking techniques. So yeah, absolutely, I totally agree. Most people talk about prompt engineering, how cool the LLMs are, and they tend to forget LLM hacking. And for just to give a quick example, everybody talks about MCPs, which are amazing. MCPs, it's just to communicate with the LLM, just to have some tools. But MCPs, they have a lot of vulnerability with prompt hacking. So yeah, it's very cool stuff, but it's also very dangerous, and we need to do some red teaming. There, Microsoft made a library to automate this. I forgot the name. You can ask me later about the name, just to how to avoid this prompt hacking thing and to do a lot of red teaming experiments. But yeah, we need to take this into account. This is a must. Very good question.
Yeah, I don't fully trust in vibe coding. I usually want and need to look at the code. That is something that we discussed earlier with Felipe. That is not by coding, obviously. That is more assisted coding than assisted engineering. But it's hard to forget about the code and to forget about watching what is happening under the hood. But if you need to build, I don't know if you have the maturity in software engineering to build enough um, test
Tests?
functional
Yes.
test in order to be sure that nothing wrong is happening under the hood, because you really need to be very strong in that layer in order to forget about the code and to forget about what is written
Yeah.
by the LLM. You need to fully trust in the feature test, and I don't think we are mature enough to do that as an industry.
Yes, it takes time, but this is why the definition of vibe coding is important. The
Yeah,
embrace
yeah,
exponential, because there's gonna be a time that you have a really cool idea to make a web app, but it requires a lot of lines of code, and you don't want to hire anyone else because you want to do it yourself. It's easier to think about acceptance tests than trying to review 1 million lines of code. Eventually, we need to accept that we need to let go. I know it's difficult because you feel proud of every line of code you write, but at some point you need to let go.
no, no,
It's easier said than
I don't
done.
feel proud. I not feel proud about any line of code of mine, but I know
You
if I
should, you
read the
should.
line of code, yeah, yeah, I
That's
know
not-
reading the line of code, I know what that line of code is doing, and if I need to build a feature test to test something that I don't know how it's written, I believe that it's harder to do. And I know that it's something philosophical, because if you trust in by coding, you need to trust in that code. And if not, you are doing another thing that is assisted engineering. So I know that we discussed that before the talking with Felipe, and I know that it's not the same thing if you are reviewing the code. That's why I I'm not sure that we can do vibe coding right now in that way, trusting in the result every time.
yeah, yeah, I agree. That way, we still have to wait until vibe coding gets better.
Yeah, we need
But
to wait.
also,
We need to wait.
there's some subtle thing. So about
Yeah,
the word trusting, that is why the only solution right now is to have amazing acceptance tests, because you must trust the
yeah,
acceptance test. You do not trust the code. That's a different thing. But yeah, I totally agree with you. Eventually, it will come. I like there's an analogy I like for example, I don't need to understand Maxwell equations of physics to know how to use a phone. I don't need
yeah,
to understand to have 10 years studying all these cool Maxwell equations. So I understand physics, but I know how to use the phone and make amazing things with it. Eventually, we have to accept it. It doesn't matter how
yeah.
good you are at what you're doing. But yeah, I totally agree with you, Dario, with that.
Great. There's another question in the chat that I believe Mari did when we were talking about determinism and consistency, that it says, in that same sense, how can we test for future extensibility? I don't know, Dario, if there's any like other interpretation that you take from this question, but I believe she was talking about that. Or Mari, if you want to expand on your questions so we can better answer it.
No, I don't think
Yeah,
I
I don't fully
understand.
understood the question. Like,
Yeah,
she's talking about determinism.
We can give her a couple minutes to see
yeah.
if she wants to read. Yeah, if she wants to
I can read one more question from the
from the
communities, and I
communities.
have one. Yeah,
Sure,
Perfect.
sure.
yeah. I have one. While vibe coding, do you think it's better to craft a detailed prompt to ask everything at once, or split it in several requests, each one with
Ah,
the level of detail needed for the task?
ideally, well, right now, if you can divide and conquer, that's better for the prompt.
Okay.
But sometimes you need to put a lot of things on one prompt. I get it. If you have enough context and enough expertise to know what to expect, go for it. But if you have doubts about it, try to divide and conquer one section at a time. Keep it simple. Just try to remember. There's an analogy I like to make when you're trying to do prompt engineering. Just imagine you speaking to a person. So that person, it's easier. He will understand if you speak one thing at a time than all this kind of context. I know AI is very intelligent in a way. I mean, but intelligent. But yeah, divide and conquer.
Yeah, it makes
That's the
sense.
key. Divide.
It makes sense. It makes sense. Yeah, great. Uh, and
Okay.
I have one more question that is for me, but maybe I don't know, Anto, if you want to read some
Yeah,
of
I
the
mean,
questions.
questions keep coming up in the chat.
Yeah,
Actually, we're hearing right now from Mari Vitos. She has make up her question, so I'm gonna read it if you guys agree.
Sure, sure.
Okay, the
yeah.
question says, are we expected to have the AI rewrite the same code base again and again if the requirements change?
So you're talking about refactoring. That will depend on the project, I guess. I'm not sure if I understood the question correctly. That
I
you can
don't know
improve.
if refactoring. I believe that what she's saying is, uh, forget about the code. We have
Yep.
the product, right? But
Yep.
what happened if the feature description change? We are expecting that will rewrite all the code one
Ah, yes.
and
Ideally,
all at the time
ideally,
again.
if you yes, ideally, if you embrace exponential, let's talk about from here to 5 years later in the future. Ideally, yes, you don't even have to worry about that. If they ask you something extra, yeah, it could change anything. But remember, you have to close your eyes when you're doing that. Just focusing on the prompt. But but yeah,
So
it
basically,
is difficult right now.
your source code will be the description of the feature.
Yes,
Okay.
it will change. It will still change. So I believe
Yeah, the code will change, obviously, but your source code now will be the description of the feature. So how it will
oh,
behave, how it will look like, that
oh
will be
I
the
get
source
it. So,
code. And each time you change that description, the code will be rewritten every time.
yes, and you have to be careful there right now because every time these new models keep improving, the same prompt does something a little bit different, and this is part of the non-determinism, which is an issue right now. So you can save your prompt, which is considered to be code because that's according to the software 3.0 paradigm. You save your prompt, big prompt, and if this LLMs keeps improving and something is going to change, yes, we have to embrace that non-determinism. That's why at the end of the day, again, we need test acceptance test. I think I get
Okay.
that
So
from the
in terms of consistency, we need to be sure that the behavior of the new features are the one that are consistent and not the code generated. We forget about the code. We trust in our test layer, and we test that the output of the features are
yes,
consistent.
exactly. Because if you go dive, you try to see the code. You kind of micromanagement, doing micromanagement
Yeah. Okay.
again because you want to look again. You cannot help it. It's like, oh, I need to look. No,
Okay.
it's an abstraction layer. Stay above the abstraction layer. But yeah,
Okay.
I hope that
Okay.
answers the question. I'm not sure.
Okay. I will go ahead and read Gustavo's question. It's a bit long, but I'll go ahead and give my first shot. So it says, in the subject of security issues, we are now seeing more and more cases of critical data leaks, such as the T app or even similar one that happened this week in Brazil. I see those happen with vibe coding platforms such as Lovable and similar ones. My question is, what do you think will be a way to assure that this does not happen in the future, considering local regulation laws regarding PHI and compliance issues? Maybe a security framework to test against the applications?
Yes, right now the only security framework I know is the one from Microsoft to do this red teaming thing to test these LLMs. I don't know if I'm aware that several companies are working on this, but there is not an established way of trying to make sure the LLM has all the security measures around it. That's bad news for everyone. It's true, and yeah, it happened. That case with the T app, I think it wasn't a well, independently of the error that they had, it's gonna keep happening with pipe coding because, again, even if the population is about 5 billion people that do not know how to code or don't have the best practices or the expertise on coding, so they're gonna try some risky things. And we can do right now, if you're not a developer, is basically wait until companies like Lovable try to implement this in a way that it's easy. You don't have to think about it. There's no other way around it. So yeah, that's bad news, but that's the reality. We need to wait, and you can, if you're a programmer, of course, you can test this by yourself. Again, to do some prompt hacking, but yeah, it's a problem we need to accept, especially for people that don't have best practices or don't have the expertise and enough context as a software developer. That's a reality. So yeah.
Dado, I see your face. You're thinking. Is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, I'm thinking. I'm trying to think how you can do to solve that without going to the code.
No,
How
yeah.
you can,
Oh,
yeah, because uh, I keep going to the code. But if in order to be sure that nothing get loose or you can't be hacked, you right now, assuming what you said, that those tools are not completely they are not completely solving these issues, you need to go to the
yes,
code in order to be sure
yes.
right now.
In this case,
Maybe
yes, yes.
in a near future with the exponential, we can be there, but right now we need to go to the code.
Oh, of course, yes. You need developers. There's no other way around it for that thing. Very smart developers that work on this because I think like every month there is some very I really I forgot the name of this hacker. He every month he hacks ChatGPT with some amazing prompts, and he shows how it's possible to do it. That's his
Oh.
job. And he keeps doing it. If he can do it, anyone else can do it. And then it's we start a war again. Like the classical hacking, red hat, I don't forget, white hat, black hat. The same thing is happening here right now. It's an ongoing struggle. So yeah, it's gonna happen. So yeah, we have to wait or be very careful. If you are not a programmer and you want to make a very cool app, you can make it like as a demo and have fun with it. But yeah, be sure to talk to the nearest software developer. Like a medic, no?
Good news for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
still
We're not
needed.
going away. Every after layer is equally important. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to read one more question from the chat from Elias that it says, is it still considered vibe coding if I provide the AI with technical guidance on my model scheme, coding, styling, packages to use, test strategy, and many other technical details in the prompt?
I think you're referring to something called specs first. There is some kind of a new IDE from Amazon. I forgot the name. So you write the specs and you let the AI do its job. Uh, yes, because you're still using prompts. You're using all your expertise and your context and for the task, which is good. You only have that because of your years of experience. But you are still writing. Like you're not looking at the code. Yeah, that is still counts as vibe coding. Yeah.
Yeah, completely agree with Felipe in this one. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, guys. Dario, if you want to go ahead and read the other question I believe you had
Yeah,
from the communities.
I have I have one more also about by coding. Said that assuming the code is not important anymore, do we have the right tools to code in natural language? Thinking about people that don't know how to write correctly anymore. So
Can
basically,
you repeat the question?
if we don't have if you don't have the right tools to write correctly in our natural language to communicate each other, how we can use the same tool to produce code or to produce a software product.
I think I got lost a little bit on the right tools to write code. I mean, it's you have two options: your English or actual
Yeah,
code.
but what
What do
happened
you mean by?
with someone that don't write in English correctly? Right now,
Oh,
for example, to communicate in WhatsApp, we don't use the right natural language. We use a lot of acronyms and localisms
We don't
and
respect
things like that. And we,
grammar. Like, yeah,
yeah,
I
there are a
we
see. I
lot
respect
see.
of,
grammar.
yeah.
So
This is
how that
this.
can affect the result of the outcome of an LLM when we are asking to build a software product.
I'm not worried so much about that because we all make mistakes when we write, unless you have a major in English literature. But it depends also on the how the model is fine tuned to accept this kind of errors, and eventually it will be trained to adopt to your errors. Eventually, I'm talking about the near future. It's like when LLM started with ChatGPT, it was all about English, and now you can write it in Spanish or any other language because it was trained already, even with all the grammar mistakes that we make as humans. So I'm not too worried about that. You can write your slang language or whatever kind of how you feel. It's okay. That's why it's called vibe. So yeah, I'm not too worried about that. Like, oh, I missed a letter. I didn't explain properly. Yeah. No. not worry about it.
Okay. Yeah. About that, my only concern or something to advise is that if the description of a feature will be our new source code, we need to do it in a way that every developer that read it understand more or less the same. So we try to be careful in the way we describe things and try to reduce the use of slang and those kind of things, because that is the new specification of the new features, because we don't want to go to the code in order to disambiguate the result.
I, I totally agree with that, and I think this comes back to the main point of the lecture, that it's all about context. It's all about
Yeah.
your expertise, and that's the difference between two kind of people using vibe coding: the one that has training, expertise, and way more context than someone who hasn't. And yeah,
Okay.
Okay.
so we're safe. We're safe until artificial superintelligence arrives. That's a whole different game. I have no idea if I'm gonna be alive to see this, but yeah.
I don't know. Everything's moving so fast. I mean, it's crazy. So who can imagine what will
Yeah.
happen in a couple of years?
Yeah,
Yeah.
nobody can. We can just speculate and have fun, but yeah.
Absolutely. All right. I think we have no more questions. I don't know, Darío, if you have any
No,
more questions.
I don't have any more.
Okay. If that is the case, then I want to appreciate you guys joining us today. I had a lot of fun. I hope everybody at the Howdy offices is enjoying and eating cake while listening to this tech talk. Please, the Buenos Aires office, save some cake for me because I'm going to go. And I want to thank Darío. I want to thank Felipe for putting this together. Celebrate Developers Day, and just know that at Howdy, of course, we make this a special day, but Developers Day is every day for us because we know how important you are here in this world. So I don't have anything else to share. Hope you had fun. Hope you enjoyed the tech talk. Please send me a Slack if you have any more topics or any ideas for future streamings. And I guess I will see you next time. Thank you for joining and have a good weekend. Bye, Darío. Bye, Felipe. Bye, everybody.
Have a good weekend. Bye.
Bye.
guys.